Well, hello. It's DNN Dave. Hope everybody is doing well. It's been a minute since I've done some live streaming, and I am excited to be back. Today, I am wanting to talk about an oldie but goodie. It dawned on me that I've never done a live stream about this. It's funny, you do something many years ago, and in this case, just over 6 years ago, I created a tool that allows you to quickly do something that a lot of people are doing every single day, and it saves so much time. I know it saves so much time for me. I have heard from countless others that it has done the same for them, and I want to talk about it today. But it's funny because like over 6 years ago, this thing was created. Now it's evolved a little bit since then, but I mean, it was really good when it was done then. I'll have to talk a little bit about the history here for a second, but I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine in the DNN ecosystem, Will Stroll, his mightiness. We were chatting about a tool that we both used quite a bit, and it was called Make DNN And I think that was it. Make DNN site. That's what it was. And it was a great little Windows app that allowed you to pretty quickly set up a local DNN instance. I mean, it did save a lot of time. It was a little bit technical, and a little bit finicky here and there, but man, it really did save a lot of time for those of us that needed to install it, a lot, usually on a daily or at least several times a week basis. Well, that tool kind of faded out. The guy that developed it was off onto other things and just wasn't interested in really maintaining that or releasing the code for it so that somebody else could maintain it. So Will and I were talking, and I was like, Will, I think I could probably build this thing pretty quickly. So I set aside a weekend and I said, I'm going to do it. It was a crazy couple of days, but there was the launch of nvQuickSite a little over 6 years ago. I believe it was March the 9th of 2016. But that was the initial version of it. But I want to talk about it because I have never done a live stream about it. So I want to show you how it can, I'm going to get a little bit radical here and say it can change your life. I mean, in a good way, because it can really save so much time. Maybe you're a module developer in the ecosystem, or maybe you're a designer of themes, or let's see, you sell extensions for DNN. Maybe you do custom modules and you need to really quickly set up test environments for those modules or development environments so that you can build those modules. You need to quickly set up an instance so that you can build a theme. There's so many use cases for the need to quickly install DNN on your local machine. Well, you could, of course, go through the process of installing DNN manually. There's quite a few videos out there. I think Chris Hammond has one. Will Stroll, who I mentioned earlier, has one out there to help you walk through manual setup of DNN in a local environment. And there are times where you may need those. That's not what I'm going to talk about here today. I'm going to talk about how you can install DNN in less than 1 minute. Yep, you heard me right. Less than 1 minute. We'll put that to the test in just a few minutes. So let me go ahead and switch over to my other screen. Hopefully my audio will not go out. Looks like everything's good on my meters over here. So good. This is nvQuickSite.com. And you can come out here, learn a little bit more about the product. And by the way, it's free. So don't worry. Just because I use the word product, it's free. You can download it via this link, which will send you right over to GitHub to the latest release, what as of the date of this recording is version 2.1.2. And the other link here will take you to the main GitHub project page out here on GitHub. I bring this one up because it's really important. If you find yourself using this app to help you download and install DNN really quickly in your environments, you may occasionally run into a bug or an area where you believe it could be improved. Get familiar with the Issues tab in that case. Submit a new issue to either discuss that enhancement or that feature request or bug. And if you're a developer and you happen to know Windows Form development, then maybe you can find an issue out here that you would be able to contribute a fix for. We do accept pull requests. As long as it fixes the issue and solves a greater need of the community, we're all game for it. So back over to nvQuickSite.com. One thing I want to point out before we start going into a demo here is the requirements page. Now, you may see a lot of different versions listed here of operating systems and server. Well, this is all that's possible with nvQuickSite. But if you scroll down to the bottom, the recommended environment as of right now is either Windows Server 2019 or, I probably should put in here, that's production environment, but local development environment, we should probably make recommendations there too. Windows 11, haven't even added that to the list yet. Probably need to do that. Or Windows 10 would be most current, 2 operating systems for just local development and testing and all that good stuff. Probably Microsoft SQL Server Developer Edition needs to be added to the list. And yeah, I'm noticing all kinds of things that can be improved on this page, but you'll definitely want to have a Windows operating system, a SQL Server instance set up on your machine, and you'll want to have your machine probably at this point be on 4.8, the latest 4.8 version of .NET Framework, and you'll want IIS installed and configured. Now, once you have those, it's pretty much cake. You just install nvQuickSite, come out here to the release, install, download the Microsoft installer package here, and it will walk you through an install wizard to set it up. It just takes a couple seconds to do that, and then you'll be ready to rock and roll. So let me go back to here. I'm going to launch nvQuickSite. I've already got it installed on my machine and I am going to show you, hopefully my window is showing here at this point, but I just got prompted, just in case you can't see it, I got prompted for user account control. Now the reason this is because we run nvQuickSite in elevated privileges. So I'm going to say yes to that, and that will give us the access to be able to do some pretty advanced stuff like set up a database in your database server instance, create an IIS website, set permissions, set up an app pool for that, create files and folders on your hard drive, and be able to set permissions on those, and then also update your System32 drivers etc host file. So we'll maybe run into a situation here in just a minute on purpose so that I can show you kind of how to get around some gotchas that you may run into. So our first time through this, I'm going to go a little slow through it. And then we'll put it to the test and see if we can really install DNN in less than a minute, in just a few minutes. The first time I'll explain all the screens and kind of what you should expect when you install it. When you launch nvQuickSite, the first screen is really getting you to choose the version of DNN that you want to install. And in this case, as of the date of this recording, the latest and greatest is 9.10.2. Now I'm going to click next, but I'm going to get prompted because I've already previously installed or downloaded DNN Platform 9.10.2. So it's going to prompt me if I want to download it again. and replace my existing local download of that, or if I just want to use the local download. Now on purpose, I'm going to go ahead and download it again to show you how fast it is. Now I've got a pretty fast internet connection, so it was really fast to download, but you may be saying, well, where is it downloading it from? Well, it's actually downloading it directly from GitHub release for DNN Platform, and we are downloading the install package. So we're actually accessing that via the GitHub API. So no matter what version of DNN you are choosing there, it will go out and get that package and download it for you. So you don't even have to worry about, where was it again that I needed to go download that? Or in some situation where you need an older version of DNN because you're doing some upgrades and need to do some local testing of those older versions as you try to get on the latest and greatest, then you won't have to go through multiple pages on GitHub to try to find that release and so forth. Okay, so now we're on the second page of our little wizard here in nvQuickSite. I have previously, before this live stream, set up an nvQuick DNN site. Now this is just the URL, and you may be asking yourself, well, why in the world is it in two different fields? Well, the reason is because locally I always use .loc, but you may use .dnndev.me, you may use .local, you may use .mymachine, whatever you want to call it, but you don't want to have to change that every single time you come into nvQuickSite. So a lot of these fields will remember the last thing that you did in that field in your previous session of running nvQuickSite. So that'll just save you just a little bit of time as you're coming in here. All you have to do is just type in the new site name that you want and leave whatever it is in place. So as I type something new, you'll notice that this field down here also changed. So that's actually an important thing we'll cover in just a minute. So I'm going to still call this nvQuickDNN.loc. By default, it's going to set up its own site-specific app pool in IIS so that everything can be isolated. And by default, it's going to delete the site in IIS if it already exists. So if previously, like in my case, I did set it up already before, so this is going to allow it to delete that site in IIS before it installs it again. So here, just like we split this up here, the reason is to make the base folder always the same usually for you when you're setting up local instances of DNN for testing or whatever you're using them for development. In my case, I like to set my dev folder to C:\dev, and then I just type in my subfolder, which by default is exactly what I type in for the site name. And this is where it's kind of, for me, it's pretty important to keep these consistently named so that I know where things are located related to this site. So whatever it is in IIS, I want my folder to be named that. And later you'll see that I also want my database name to match that as well. That being said, you can override it. And if I'm typing it here, it's automatically going to type it down here. But if I type it in down here, that's how I deviate from that, and it doesn't match there. So that's how you can kind of customize it to your liking. I'm going to leave them the same. I'm going to click next. And since I previously installed this same site, it's telling me that everything at this location is going to be deleted prior to the installation of the new instance of DNN here. If this folder didn't exist and this site didn't exist, it would not prompt you for this. It would just go on to the next step. So I can either choose not to proceed or proceed. In this case, I want to proceed, so I'll choose yes. And the database server name sticks. So whatever I previously included in this field in my last session of nvQuickSite, that same database server name is going to be in here when I run it again. So rarely are you going to change database server instances on your machine. Now, some of you advanced users are using multiple versions of SQL Server on your machine. That's okay. You can always change this, but it's going to remember the last one. So most of us are going to be using the same instance each time when we come in here, and it'll remember that. Now, I'm using a special database server name because that's the way I've got my SQL Server configured to be able to allow parentheses, local parentheses, to name it. Now, if it was a named instance, you would give it the full named instance. Okay, that may be something that you run into when you're first starting to use nvQuickSite. So just remember that. You may have to use your full named instance if you have multiple instances on your machine and the one that you're using is not configured to do this. That's what you're going to have to do. And that's usually in the form of, I think it's server name, like your machine name, / instance name or something like that. So that's what you'll have to use there. Okay, database name matches exactly what I put in for my site name, but you can override it. You can call it whatever you want to. And by default, Windows authentication is used, but you can use SQL Server authentication if you so wish to do so. Not recommended, but you can. Okay, so let's click next. At this point, it's going to actually set up everything for DNN so that it can kick off the DNN installation wizard. So we'll do this next. And I've got a pretty fast machine, so this is going to go super fast, but it's doing a lot during that progress bar right there. It is unzipping or extracting the files from the downloaded DNN install package to the location that you told it to create the site at, the file folder locations. It is setting up a site in IIS. It is setting up a database server for this instance and putting permissions in place to tie the user for the database to the app pool user account. So it's really kind of doing things in a proper way, the way that you would want to do it in a production environment, but locally so that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to manually go through and do stuff. It's also updating your local hosts file in system 32 drivers etc, your host file, to point the domain that you put in to your internal IP address for your computer, 127.0.0.1. And it's setting permissions on the folders. Can't remember if I said that, but there's quite a bit that it's doing for you behind the scenes, and you saw how fast that went. So it's fantastic. So now all I have to do is click the big button here for Visit Site. That will close nvQuickSite and open that local DNN instance in your tab with the exact URL that I said that I wanted to use for my site name and my .loc at the end. So now we're off into DNN world. We're outside of nvQuickSite, we're into DNN. So this is the normal install process for DNN. So I'll put in a temporary password here, and I'll just leave the email address the same. I'll put this in as nvQuickDNN. Since our buddy Daniel Veladas is viewing live here, I'll spell DNN with the lowercase n's. You're welcome, Daniel. Okay, and we can leave this as a default website. And actually I could just go ahead and click continue, but I wanted to point something out that you may not know. The database setup is already pre-configured for you by nvQuickSite. So if you were to switch over to the custom, you would see that the server name got put in here, the database name got put in here, integrated security because we are using Windows authentication, and run database as database owner. All that stuff was done for you by nvQuickSite. So again, saving time. You didn't have to go and manipulate the web config file to set up your connection string. So we'll click continue. And in just a second, DNN will be installed. So all in all, it's a pretty fast process. The piece of it that takes the most time, honestly, is going to be the DNN install itself. And it's pretty fast these days, so it's fantastic. Daniel says it's like DNN Copilot. He's a little bit jelly because I've got GitHub Copilot, and he's been seeing all the awesome code completion going on in there, and yeah, this is definitely like DNN Copilot. So now we have a new instance on a local machine of DNN 9.10.2. So fantastic, yeah. So what we're going to do at this point is we are going to use nvQuickSite to overwrite this again and create a new instance. And we're going to see how fast it can go. So I'm going to go back over to my other screen, launch nvQuickSite. I'll pull over the prompt just so hopefully you can see that. And I'll mention this time that don't worry about publisher unknown. I promise you there's no malicious code in nvQuickSite here that you can't trust. It's just that to go through the signing process would cost bukus of money, and as an open source project, it's just not going to happen unless somebody wants to support for that or sponsor for that piece of it. So let's see. Where did my nvQuickSite window go? Oh, there it is. Okay, so let's put the timer on. I don't know. I'll look over at my clock here and see what we've got. Okay, I could just start a timer on my phone, I suppose. Let me get out my handy dandy phone here, and we will do a timer. Yeah, let me see if I can find a place to put this. Put it right over here so I can see it. We'll do a stopwatch on it. Okay, so there's our stopwatch. So I'm going to click start on the stopwatch, and I'm going to roll right through this. Now, before I go through it, because you may not see what I do and I don't do, but I've already got all those fields pre-populated, so I suppose this is a little bit unfair because you're not typing new stuff in, so maybe I should call it nvQuickSite. nvQuick DNN 2. Let's do that. Yeah, that'll be a brand new instance. Let's just do that. So we'll still use DNN 9.10.2, but I will go ahead and type in the new site name fully. I won't just type the little character 2. I mean, we're going to make this as best as we can here, make it as fair as possible. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so next, and I don't want to download it this time, so I'm going to type the whole thing, nvQuick DNN 2. I'm going to click next. Yep, I want to create that location. Yep, it's already got that populated. Oh, I got a folder permission issue. Oh my gosh. I tell you what, we're going to have to stop and talk about this one real quick. So, this is a situation you may run into from time to time. So I went ahead and stopped my stopwatch here. And I'm kind of glad we ran into this because it's worthy of mention. If you have antivirus running on your machine, occasionally it will get in the way. Now, I'm running Kaspersky, and I'm going to just go ahead and reset IIS here so that it'll kind of release that area there. But I occasionally run in this from time to time for Kaspersky, and I have yet to find a rhyme or reason why it sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't. I found that if I restart IIS, a lot of times it will not happen. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see if it'll happen this time. Okay, I am resetting my stopwatch, and I'll still use nvQuick. I'll tell you what, I'll just write over the same nvQuick DNN, but I'll type it again, just so that we hopefully don't run into that issue again. So I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 1, start. Okay, next. And I don't want to download it. I'm going to type in nvQuick DNN. It should prompt me to replace that one. Yep, go ahead and replace it. Next. and it is now extracting it. Fantastic. Everything's looking smooth. I'm going to visit the site, which, by the way, I overwrite everything, so it's just like starting over from scratch, but it's just a little bit more work. So we're doing something even more than normal here. All right, I'll put this in and I'll call this nvQuickDNN. I'll click continue. So we're even timing the DNN portion of this as well. And we are done. I'll hit stop. That is exactly 58 seconds. As you see, most of it was waiting for DNN to get done. Now, in all due fairness, I didn't wait for the site to reload, but I said it would help you install DNN in less than 1 minute. So it is installed. We were just waiting for the first site reload. So there it is, people. nvQuickSite, install DNN less than 1 minute. If you like this content, or if you want to see other content from me, be sure to hit the subscribe below and hit the like button and tell your friends. Anybody you know in the DNN community can benefit from this content. So I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a fantastic day.